hi everybody, and welcome to Spin Legal today. My name's Peter Giblett, and I'm here with Angela Browne. Angela, hi. How are you doing?
How you doing? How'd you get to tan there? You got a really nice tan.
Well, this is a Donald Trump special.
Oh, the Donald Trump special. He spreads
Yeah.
orange stuff
Oh yeah.
all over him.
Yeah. No. Sparkle on. Oh, got it on my. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I put the pop art type scenery on. Right.
Mhm.
And my nice Niagara Falls in the background.
Oh,
The
yes.
falls there, right? And
Yeah.
on the right out of sight that you can't yet see is the Canadian Falls. That's the privilege of sitting here in the Niagara Falls office. I can wave to the tourists up and down the parkway.
Did you get the tourists to start watching Spin Legal too?
Yeah, I tried.
Your studio.
I tried. I bribed them. I said, $2.50. How about you watch Spin Legal? And they went, what? $2.50? You're a cheapskate, mate. And that was the English ones.
Oh.
Right. Anyway, so here we are with Spin Legal. Welcome everybody. And if you need to contact Invictus Legal, you can do so on 905-688-5598. You can email Angela at Angelo at weareinvictus.legal, or myself using Peter at weareinvictus.legal. And our website is weareinvictus.legal. And tonight, we're going back to basics somewhat. Doesn't matter what it is, doesn't matter what your problem is. You know you've got a problem. What do you do next? Document it. Document everything before you've got a problem. Document it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Think about the problems that you might have. Document it. Right? In fact, I've got a thing that says here.
Oh boy. Yeah, look at the skeleton on it.
Did you document it? Right? And in part that was the inspiration for today, but still. Okay, so one of the things we talk about when we have consultations here in Invictus, people come in, they talk about the problem that they've got and say, okay, so understand you've got these particular issues, you've got a case, potentially have a case. Can you do me a favor and document it, right? Create yourself a journal, right? Create yourself a journal and put down what happens, right? So sometimes there's various ways of documenting things. Some people who might well be a bit more tech adept might well actually, there's multiple ways you can
use your calendar. You can just put this happened on such and such a date and what time and who did it, what happened, and then it just gets carried out, and then they can print it out and then give that to their legal counsel.
And sometimes other people will quite happily use their telephones as recording devices, and I can't even see where my phone is right now, which probably means I left it somewhere. Oh, there you go.
My phone is being charged. It's sitting on top of the cabinet there. It's being charged.
Yeah, but again, what you do is you kind of go into the app. You kind of, a lot of people do this anyway. There's plenty of apps out there that you can use that will allow you to document almost anything.
Yeah, right? Exactly. There's a journal app. There's calendar app. There's different apps that you can use.
And for example, there's dictation type app. Now, dictations on their own are pretty difficult because they don't necessarily mean anything, because in fact, actually, an hour and a half of tape doesn't necessarily help a great deal with many legal cases, because you've got to translate it into a text to actually get it working. Yeah. But there's AI tools out there.
AI note taker. There's a lot of different things, and I'm trying to learn how to use that too, because I want to start putting some of that stuff down.
Yeah, and the point about this is when you create a journal. Now, I have to say that, hey, hands up time. I was bad at this when I was at school, told, why don't you guys create a journal? You'll find it very satisfying recording what you've done. And I did for a period of time in my 20s. I created a journal, journal of thoughts, and I still have there's about 3 or 4 books, 3 or 4 handwritten books, this type of book, that was done. 3 or 4 of them, I've got them still on my shelves at home, um, containing my thoughts of the day way back when. But this is not that type of thing. This is not about creating your thoughts of the day. This is more about, you've got a problem, you document it. It's like, so you're suspecting Joe of something malicious going on. Document why what he's doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Eye on him. Just you feel he's impacting your life in a negative way, right? Document what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Let's hope that nothing happens. Let's hope that he leaves you alone, that he's mistaken.
Yeah.
Maybe Angela, and you'll get this being a lady. Maybe Joe fancies you. He hasn't got the words to say that he fancies you, but he keeps hanging around the street corner where he knows you go by. And you find it disturbing, naturally, because you don't know who Joe is, and you kind of say, "I wish that guy would leave me alone."
Mm-hmm.
Right? When I'm waiting for the number, when I'm waiting for the number 52 bus, he's always there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because I might bring some pepper spray with me next time.
Well, yeah, but again, part of the problem here is that he may fancy a date with you, but unless he voices that, you don't know, do you? You might think
what he's trying to do. Yeah.
Yeah, you're thinking he's thinking about killing you or other things, right?
Robbing me.
Yeah, exactly.
As many others have.
Yeah, exactly. So this is where you create a journal. Now, you're not going to stand out. You're not, in that scenario, you're not going to pull your book out, open your thing up, get your pen out, and start writing your journal here, are you?
No.
This is going on because he's across the road being a creep. But when you get on that bus, now you can say, that guy.
Take a picture, date it, and then get on the bus, and then I can put a recording on it.
Yeah. And then basically say, hey, yeah, that guy again was watching me get on the number 53 bus. I think he's a creep. It may be totally innocent. He just, I talked about him maybe fancying you, right? Which is natural enough type of situation. But he just may be waiting for his mate who comes along at 5 minutes after you catch the bus every day.
Yeah, maybe she's works nearby or something.
Yeah, exactly. You don't know. We don't know what other situations are going on. So a lot of this sort of stuff is about creating the right, creating a history just in case.
Yeah.
Because you never know. If you've got something that creeps you out, create a journal and keep a record of it. Yeah. You may not have anything at that point that you're creating the record, first of all, you might not have anything but a suspicion in mind. But let's say it goes further than a suspicion. Let's say that you really are now in a situation where harassment's come into play.
Mm-hmm.
For example, if you were going to the police and you're saying, hey, this guy's harassing, I believe this guy's harassing me, and you were to give them your journal about what you've seen with this particular guy, maybe that goes further than I'm being creeped out every day.
Yeah, there has to be some valid reason or some kind of thing where it would cause you to either fear for your property or for your well-being.
Yeah. All right, and there's a number of reasons why you may well be dealing with that, and and it applies in almost any area of law because, as I say, what the description I just gave was a semi-criminal type situation whereby people may be fearing for their personal safety. There may be nothing going on, but there might be something going on. So creating the journal is that way of ensuring that there's a record kept.
And this is what I usually tell people who feel that they might be terminated from the job or have been, or they suspect constructive termination, to keep records and keep the records on their personal email. and personal devices so that they will not lose it if they lose their work email. And then do this on a daily basis.
Yep.
Even if they have to send something to themselves or print it out or do something to back it up.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. So that's actually so creating a journal is part an important part of that, right? And again, at this stage, you might be nothing going on, right? So creating a consistent, objective, and secure set of records, events, and decisions, etc., is something that not only if you're facing a potential legal situation, but for example, you might well have been told this at work in a work situation. Maybe you're dealing with accounts, and you've called 30 or 40 times for Mr. Jones to actually pay his bill, and he never does.
Mm-hmm. And you
Exactly.
need to put this in a file that I called him, and he has not answered, or he said, "Oh, I'll pay you next week. I'll pay you," and hasn't.
Yeah. Exactly, because when it comes to actually going to collecting on that debt, now you've got a thing to say, whether it's your lawyer or a paralegal, you're saying, I want to sue this guy. He's never paid me. He owes me X and consistently doesn't pay.
Yeah.
So when you're asked, okay, so what evidence do you have that he's done this? Now you've got a record that says for exactly what he said on every time you've called him. So you've got essentially a call log here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? And what you're doing here is largely about logging all incidents and conflicts.
Yeah. And then if something happens, like say if somebody comes into the office and they throw a tantrum, throw themselves on the floor and kick their feet and start screaming. Somebody's there and we have to witness them. What is their name? Who are they? Why are they here? What are they fussing about? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then we have to make a note of all actions that we've taken to try to help that person, prevent them from hurting themselves or prevent them from hurting others. And then eventually we would have to get them to leave.
Yeah. So essentially, and again, Joey came into the office. I asked for his name. He said, "Joey, you know who I am. Blah de blah, whatever went on, and you owe me money, right? And pay it now, right?"
Mm-hmm.
Then he left with veiled threats that I didn't catch, etc., etc. And this was on the 30th of July, and you recorded it.
Yeah, and it's recorded.
Yeah.
Or if we've had to handle something like we've had a touchy situation where somebody had threatened that they're going to be running into traffic and drowning themselves with alcohol, things like that. We've had to talk to the non-emergency police and also the mental health agency to make sure that that person gets a welfare check. We cannot disclose much about that person other than what was necessary enough to give that party context that we're talking to, so that they will go there and calm them down.
That's us dealing with the types of logs that we deal with. The legal industry is full of rules about logging pretty well everything, right?
Mm-hmm. Every time you sneeze, you got to log it.
Yeah. Yeah, she's not joking.
Mm-hmm.
That's you. No. There we go.
Yeah, Peter, you got to put that in there.
Yeah. Okay. One of the important things about logging everything is do it immediately, because it's like, okay, I know it happened. If you don't do it immediately, it's like, so next week sometimes somebody says, so Joe, do you know what happened? When that issue occurred, when we had the flood on the floor, what day was it? What time was it? And you went, oh, I think it was Tuesday. I think it was 2:00. And then Bert goes, no, it wasn't. It was 12:00 on Wednesday. I got it logged on my incident log.
Yeah, exactly. Because I made the call to the insurance company on Wednesday.
Yeah.
because I normally, as soon as I discover these things, I call on Wednesday. I
Yeah.
call insurance, right?
Yeah.
And then the insurance replied shortly after, and then they sent somebody over. I mean, these are things how you keep how one thing leads to another, and then it comes to some natural conclusion.
Yeah.
And if you're not happy with the conclusion, then you put in there and said, okay, this is what I would expect to happen and what I want to see happen. But this is what happened instead.
Yeah.
And I'm still short $30,000
Yeah.
because of all the
Or
damage. So
yeah,
I want to go
or
out
the
and
kind of
sue.
thing might well be something along the lines of called the landlord to repair. Joey broke the window. Joey from next door broke the window. I called the landlord to have it repaired.
Mm-hmm.
You know, 5 days later, called the landlord again to get the window repaired.
Mm-hmm.
He's basically said, no, I got to get the money off Joey before I can fix your window.
Yeah,
Right?
he might say something like that, or he might
Yeah.
say, I'm in Florida, I can't do anything about it.
Yeah, yeah. And then 5 days later, you called him. It's like, no, he doesn't want to know. He's too busy. He's at a conference. And 10 days later, I called him again. So all of this is actually a pattern of activity which you're showing about that individual,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because you as a tenant in that scenario have rights.
Yep.
So all of these things, all of those things that you might log, all have consequences at the end of the day. And as I said, log them immediately, because the trouble is, once it's after the event, you don't know whether it happened last Tuesday or last Wednesday or the fortnight beforehand, do you?
We got our thing
Sorry?
frozen, frozen. We
Oh,
got what we were waiting for.
oh, okay. Okay. All right. All right. So the other thing about this is that stick to the facts. Do not interpret or add emotions.
Yeah. Yeah. Just say Bill Johnson walked into the office and then he started yelling and screaming. And then Peter had to come out with Justin and they had to frog march him out of the office. I use the word frog march.
But again, that's actually, so that doesn't say how Peter felt about this guy walking in.
Doesn't say Peter doesn't
Yeah.
like this guy,
Yeah.
and every time he turns
Talk about
around and makes
Justin
upset,
and his
and
feelings.
Justin can't stand them,
Yeah. Yeah. It stuck to the facts. It was about the person who walked in when they did it, 12:42 p.m.
Yeah, harassed our receptionist,
Yeah, exactly.
and then made some demands on her, and then came back and then proceeded through the door through into our offices, and then demanded to see Peter. And the thing is, this was not acceptable. So Peter got out, and Justin witnessed this, and he picked up, and then we frog marched him out of the office.
Yeah. And it doesn't cover the issues about how you feel, how the whole situation made you feel, because that's evidence that comes later on, right?
Yeah, that's evidence that comes later on, because if we feel threatened by this guy, if we feel that he's been violent before, or has made any kind of threats on our property or physical being,
Yeah.
So these are things that we would have to identify.
And essentially, let's say that that particular situation you were talking about, where a person walks into a business or something, and two people, escort him out and say, "Don't come back here again. When you're not welcome here anymore." Then a week later, he comes back. Now you've got, and he pokes his head in the door but doesn't come in. Then the same a week later, week after that, and the same a week after that, and then eventually he comes in with a taunting attitude. Now you call the police, right?
Then you call the police. What you do is you start with the trespass notice.
Yeah.
Right? Then you can use the Trespass to Property Act. Right? And then that also has to be documented about how the Trespass to Property Act notice has been served on them.
Yeah.
And then we talk to the police. Please get a copy of that, and then person shows up again, and then somebody goes out in one of the offices, phones the police to come over, and then the police come, and then we try to make this a peaceful event. We don't want to have them throwing themselves all over the floor and screaming and yelling, about the police, and so forth. Also, police will have to drag them out, maybe arrest them. Which I've always tried to get people to calm down if the police were coming. Because I said, they're just going to talk to you. They're going to ask you to leave, and they're going to go. And that's it.
And again, we're using information about sort of what may or may not happen in an individual office. It could happen in shops. For example, if you were robbed every third Tuesday in a shop, that would be something you want to particularly build up as evidence that you might want to give to the police.
Absolutely. It's one of the things we have where, because this is the type of thing, like especially if you're starting to have people who are harassing the office on a frequent basis, and it seems to be the same people. This is where you can kind of say, and that's why you'd have to send them a Trespass to Property Act. But if it's different people, like say if you have a shop downtown where you have a lot of, like say a jewelry store. Jewelry stores are getting really victimized lately. Mm-hmm. Thing is, you get these people coming in, they're just pretending to look around, and all of a sudden they do smash grabs and they walk. So this is a very, very serious, because you have to be able to kind of size them up in some way. Now you can't even get in a jewelry store now because you have to.
You're buzzed in, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly. Because I went to the
I'm sorry, Angela, but you've got beady eyes. I'm not letting you in.
Yep.
Type of thing.
Guys, the last people who robbed me were blonde, so get out.
Yeah.
Person has nothing to do with them.
I didn't know you were blonde. You look brown. You look redhead to me.
Yeah, redhead, and that's going to be dyed again on the Easter weekend.
Right. Okay. So one of the things about this is that you need to keep records in a private and safe place. Yep. Now, I'm not saying that you need a safe to put them in. You don't need a document safe. Maybe you just basically put a record into your computer on a Word document that you keep hidden away somewhere.
Yep, and also a physical copy if you need to grab one and provide it to somebody.
Yeah,
especially if you're worried about either them repeating it or if they've already repeated it.
Well, and some of the things like this, for example, in a divorce type situation, keeping your own records in a private, safe place. That private, safe place might well be the desk at work.
Yeah, exactly. Because there has been people who I've been handling a very serious case, not a divorce, but they are divorcing and they're going through their family law case. And seriously, they were partners at work, but then she decided to employ him, and then they turned around and then they terminated him because of the divorce, and so we're going back, take what's his.
Yeah.
But it's but these things can get really messy, right? So and he was saying, but how was I supposed to keep my private things that's going on, and I'm sending it to my lawyer for court, and things like that. So we talked about that. So to protect himself, hey?
Yeah. And some of those situations are actually the toughest because
it's actually because it's so filled with emotion because like the thing is they come in and they just like they had a life that they thought they built for themselves, and then suddenly they didn't. It's
okay.
And same as a workplace. You might think the workplace is really good. You worked there for 20 years. You're really happy. Then suddenly the new boss comes in and buys a company. And then all of a sudden he does a shakedown. And then everybody who's there for more than a certain period of time is gone.
Yeah.
So
or the other thing is, of course, what happens is the boss decides he doesn't like redheads and fires a lot of them.
Yeah, fires all the redheads. And then the thing is,
that's when you dye your hair to blonde, isn't it?
Yeah, that's when you have to go and get blonde. Bleach it.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so we talked about keeping records in a safe place. The other thing is that you might have to do is you might have to actually write down verbal conversations, because not everything we do is all documented. Sometimes things are done verbally. Sometimes you might need to use these little devices and actually take a video of the event. But in certain situations, you might well be in a situation where you can confirm a verbal communication. For example, if you're getting fired, you say to your boss, just to confirm ABCD, these are the terms about what the company is going to do and what I'm going to do, and that my termination day is whatever.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Following your telephone conversation this afternoon at 1:30.
Yeah.
I am summarizing hereby below, and this is what is expected of me, and this is what I expect of you.
Yeah.
Right? And then
exactly.
and
So you've reduced the conversation that you had, that you may have taken notes at, to something in writing.
yeah, exactly. And then that way you're communicating to the other party, you're documenting this. And
Yeah.
if the party says, no, I didn't say that, and then they will try to correct it, and then we can come to an agreement about what we're going to do.
Yeah. But again, there's a number of reasons why, we all there's a situation when we listen that we don't always listen. We have what are called micro sleeps. So, and this was a listening expert who told me about this. So what happens is you and I listen to the same conference, but we get two different things out of it, or same speech or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Say Mark Carney or Donald Trump's giving a speech. You will hear one set of things. I will hear another set of things. And again, what happens is we go into these snap micro sleeps that last for tenths of seconds, and we don't hear quite exactly everything that was said. But you hear something different than I hear. It happens. It's the way of life, right?
So we also have a perception of things about what they mean. Right? And sometimes we take what we perceive the meaning to be, and we have it.
Yeah. And for example, in a political sense, is cutting down on public debt. But your perception of that statement may be different than my perception of that statement.
Exactly. Everybody thinks that means different things. To me, it's always going to end up in service cuts, and it's always going to end up to hit the middle and lower classes.
Yeah, and that's one perfectly valid example. And to me,
meanwhile, somebody else will say, "Hey, this is great. We're not going to be as much in debt, and then we're not going to have as high interest rates as a result of this. We're going to be trying to clean things up financially."
Yeah. Right? Exactly. And those are political statements. But again, when you're putting statements down in a conversation, and you're getting confirmation, that's probably the best way of getting some form of confirmation about how you understand things. Now, if you do enter in a conversation where the person says, no, I didn't say that we'll be paying you $25,000 to do this. I said that if this condition arose, we'd be paying $25,000.
Yeah, and they should be putting this into writing.
Yeah.
Okay? So they'll say, say for instance, like if you're getting like a sales job, and then you're paying you a base salary, but if there's a certain level of sales achieved, then you make additional pay.
Yeah, you make 150 sales this year at $10,000 a sale. We'll give you an extra $25,000.
Yeah, exactly. Right? And there's a lot of companies that will do it that way, because that's how they benefit.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a performance-based improvement, and if you don't understand, and the whole point about that is that verbal conversation was very important, because it's all about getting what you needed out of the situation. And if you don't document it, that's where potential errors occur. Right? Any other thoughts about things that you might want to document?
Yes, you might want to document everything. Like, say, if there's if there's health issues coming up or injuries, and you might want to mark your symptoms each day or mark your health issues until you can see your doctor so that you can have a list of questions for your doctor.
One further thought about it is that I don't know how many people out there that do this, but I'm interested to find out. Cameras in your cars, front and back windows in your cars. I wonder how many people do that, because there are some people who those cameras are on all the time, and police have insisted on trying to get the videos, and some instances they've been given, and others they've been told get lost.
Yeah, like say for instance, you're just driving down the road and you have the camera going, and then you see something happens, like an accident or something, and then you're just driving past because you're trying to be careful and not get involved, and then the police officer sees you and then drives you down the road and he said, "Did you see that? We would like to see the camera footage." Hey, if you have, because they notice that you have a camera on your car. Hey. Yeah, and you have a choice whether or not to give it to them or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, you weren't involved in it.
Yeah. Well, even if you were involved in it, there's probably reasons not to give it to them.
Yeah, exactly, especially if you caused it.
Yeah. So there's a lot of types of evidence that you have to think very clearly about as to whether you're going to give it up and how it's going to help you in your case.
Mm-hmm.
And ironically enough, there's a lot of evidence that is out there that's about, so a person saying bad things about another person is another form of evidence that you might actually want to save.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Because this is one of the things too for slander, defamation.
Yeah, exactly. Slander and defamation. There's all manner of stuff, and it's not just what was published in the newspaper 12 years ago about you that you just found out. It's a whole variety of stuff.
Yeah, and politically too. You want to go up there and make all these promises and say a bunch of things and do things, or you want to say that you've done this or achieved this, but somebody out there who's listening has a whole different set of facts because they've tracked you for a long time.
Well, and actually, when you think about this, is that and this reflects upon the way our legal process works. You think about our two leaders in this country, Mark Carney and Pierre Poilievre. If they were arguing in Parliament about a particular thing, Mark Carney might say the Liberal government wants to do X, and Pierre Poilievre might say, well, if we do X, it's going to be bad for the country. And no disrespect to either of them. They've got a right to their viewpoints. But again, when it comes to anything like this, and that's a lot of the reason why we would document.
Yeah, exactly.
Make sure everything is documented, because when it comes
to the election, I documented everything I knew about Poilievre, and I brought it all up to Facebook for the different groups where they're discussing this.
Yeah.
And I says, this is what you need to know.
It's another evidence-based type discussion, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's different than a legal case, but it's still an evidence-based discussion.
People want to look at him and saying that, oh, he wants to help people, older people. And I said, no, Poilievre was part of a government that wanted to cut OAS. Okay? And then we also have evidence of that, and this is what he voted for. Right? So this is the type of thing you do. And same as some of the other things, and same as, well, Mark Carney hasn't been like long enough to say what he did and didn't do, but there will be a time, when he starts developing a track record.
All right. And the question about anything to do with evidence is, again, realistically, keep it in a safe place, keep it private. You don't necessarily need to let everybody know that actually you've got that evidence.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Sure. When you at the appropriate time, you let your legal team know that you've got evidence.
Yeah, exactly. Just say, I've got this, and this needs to be. Yeah, somebody sort of got. Remember that when Bob Gale resigned? Somebody somewhere discovered or held it back or knew about something, and then they disclosed it to two anti-racist organizations in Niagara, and revealed it, that he had a signed copy, more or less, of Hitler. Mankind, right?
Yeah.
So I guess, I mean, that's just, the timing was lovely when they did that. And I don't know whether whoever disclosed that knew about this all along,
Yeah.
or whether that was just a new discovery.
Yeah.
But this had caused him to resign, and it wasn't the people encouraging the resign.
And
I
again,
think from Ontario.
And again, that actually is a perfect example of evidence-based situations. You're using evidence that comes to the light in order for a decision to be made.
Yeah, like it may or may not have any relevance at all to the gentleman's politics or his history or his personality, because he says he's a collector, and maybe he is, And I just said, if you got something like that, why don't you put it in a museum? That's something that's very educational in value. That's the way I'd look at it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Again, a lot of this is, we're talking about if you have a legal problem, document it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Document it. You have a problem with your employer. You have a problem with your neighbor. You have a problem with it. Just document it. Okay, my neighbor's dog barked 4 times a day, and I've 9 o'clock in the morning, barked all for over an hour. Then again at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, then again at 7 p.m. So you have that. You're keeping all of this stuff in track, and you report that to the city, and you bring it to the legal representative for a nuisance lawsuit. A lot of things that
just think of how you can be obstructed by not having that information.
Yep, exactly. Exactly. To be questioned.
And it's not that when you walk into the office and you say, hey, Peter, the next door neighbor's dog's been barking all day, all week for the last God knows how many weeks. It's not that I disbelieve you, but in order to do something about it, I need evidence at that point.
Evidence. Yeah. Like the thing is, they wouldn't be coming into the office if they had a cute little pooch next door and they really like to go out there and pet that dog. But they come into our office when there's a problem.
Yeah. All right. So just to let you know, that was kind of about about documenting things, creating a journal, keeping records of everything. And just to let you know that if you need to contact Invictus Legal, you can do so on 905-688-5598. Email Angela with angela@weareinvictus.legal, or myself using peter@weareinvictus.legal. Our website is weareinvictus.legal. There we go. And for the final wrap up of the show.
So what you heard today on Spin Legal is not legal advice, or any of our other shows. We're not giving legal advice on this show. We're giving you legal information. We have discussions about important legal issues that many people have encountered. So if you do need specific legal advice or recognize some of the issues that we talk about and it's happening in your life, please feel free to contact Invictus Legal to talk to us, or to a lawyer or paralegal, to make sure you get correct legal advice that would apply to your situation. Thank you.
All right. And we'll be back again this time next week, 6 o'clock next week, and with another topic. So have a great week, everybody, and we'll say bye.